Hello everyone, welcome to another video. I'm Randy, and this video is going to be about one of my favorite artists and someone that just passed away a couple weeks ago, but I thought I would do this video, and it's Jerry Lee Lewis, who one of the early rock and rollers on Sun Records, probably the last of the Sun Records, maybe the last of the early rockers since Little Richard passed away a few years ago. And now Jerry Lee Lewis, who a lot of people would joke that you can't kill Jerry Lee or Keith Richards, but unfortunately Jerry Lee did pass away. He did look pretty frail a while back. They showed Chris Christopherson giving him the award, being inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame, which unbelievably I go, he's not in the Country Music Hall of Fame? How can that be? I mean, he had some of the greatest country records there were, and a lot of hits, and it's mind-boggling to think that he wasn't in the Country Music Hall of Fame already. But he looked pretty frail in that video of him giving that award, and I guess it wasn't too long after that he did pass away. Now, I probably have more records from Jerry Lee Lewis than maybe any other artist. Bob Dylan, Van Morrison might be close, but and I have quite a few box sets. Bear Family put out some great box sets, and unfortunately, one of the box sets, the middle one, that it got damaged, and I still have the records, but I don't have the booklet or the box itself. There was one that was on Discogs a while back, and I should have got it because basically it had some records missing, and it was kind of cheap, but it did have the box and the book available, and I hesitated, and now it's not on there anymore. But anyway, so in this kind of, I guess I'll call it a tribute, show a few of the things that I think if you wanted to get into Jerry Lee Lewis, or maybe just have, a hits package or something like that, some of the things maybe you would want to get. I'm going to show some of the best in my collection, I think, as far as, I think, essential recordings. And of course, Jerry Lee Lewis, I never did get to see him in concert. I did go twice to see him, and he didn't make it. He didn't show up both times. And I can't remember the excuses now because it's been years ago. But he was kind of an SOB and volatile. His career kind of hit a skid when he married his 13 or 14-year-old cousin. And so I'm not going to talk about whether he was a nice person, because I don't know if he would be a person I'd want to hang out with. But he was an amazing talent, unbelievable on the piano, played by ear, and he could take any tune and make it his own. And so some of the things I'm going to show, one of the first things is you need to have the Sun recordings. This is the Faraday Fireball collection that Sun put out with Great Balls of Fire and Whole Lot of Shakin' Going On are probably the two greatest songs in rock history. But he does a whole bunch more on here, like Milkshake Mademoiselle, which is a great one. I love how he does the Hank Williams tune You Win Again. Makes it kind of a rocker. High School Confidential, which he helped write. He only wrote about 4 or 5 songs in his career. He was mostly an interpreter, but he does End of the Road, which is one of his tunes, which is a great one too. And then there's also a Rare Tracks, and I have a couple rare ones on vinyl too. But this is a great one. Rhino put out a collection like Deep Ellum Blues. He does a great version of that. Big Leg Woman. Keep Your Hands Off at Birthday Cake, which was pretty risque for back in the day. And then Bear Family put a box set out of all his Sun recordings, which I would consider essential, but he did so much great stuff on early rock stuff on Sun, and I found this used, and it doesn't have the box or anything, but it has all the CDs in it, which I really enjoyed. Another one I highly recommend is this Jerry Lee Lewis, The Session, with these great recording artists. This might be, I think, the first CD I bought. was either this or there was a Buddy Holly one that I got too, but it were like the first CD I ever bought. And this has the definitive version, I think, of Trouble in Mind. He just does a great one. The piano was amazing on that. And No Headstone on My Grave. And of course, he incorporates his name into the song as well. But this had some great artists on here like Delaney Bramlett and Peter Frampton, Roy Gallagher, Kenny Jones, Albert Lee, Alvin Lee, Gary Wright. Just amazing artists that were on this with him. And he is in great form on this one. I would recommend this album called The Session for anyone. Some other albums I would recommend. I'm going to show the vinyl versions I have. First of all, I would like to say that this is from that box set I was talking about. It's called Jerry Lee Lewis, The Killer, 1969 to 1972. And this was his prime country period, where he did some amazing albums. And like I said, there's the Bear Family logo. And like I said, I'm missing the box of this, but I do have the records with me. And one of my favorite albums of all time is this country record. It's called Who's Gonna Play This Old Piano? And I just love this album. And this came out in 1972. There's Jerry with the hat on there. And the funny thing about this is the song actually, Who's Gonna Play This Old Piano? There's not much piano playing on that song. It's kind of these Dixieland horns and things on there. But this has some great country tunes. Maybe my favorite country tune of his, which is Think About It, Darlin', which is written by Jerry Foster and Jim Rice. And also The Mercy of the Letter. They wrote that one as well. This says B. Rice. I thought his name was Jim Rice. Well, I don't know about that. But anyway, No More Hanging On, Jerry Chestnut, another writer. They did a lot of his tunes. Ray Griff is the one that wrote Who's Gonna Play This Old Piano? But those were some of the country artists that he did a lot of their tunes. I think a lot of them wrote songs for him. But this is an amazing one that I would recommend. Who's Gonna Play This Old Piano for, a country album of Jerry Lee's. Another great country album is this one, She Still Comes Around to Love What's Left of Me, which is probably the best tune on here. And just one of the amazing things about his country albums and his country songs is, he does the Jerry Lee Lewis thing on the piano where he will, ad-lib a little bit or whatever, and he always likes to throw his name somehow into the lyrics, which was always interesting. But this one has like To Make Love Sweeter for You, which is Glenn Sutton, another one of the artists that used to do a lot of their songs. Of course, he does some of the old rock people like Otis Blackwell, and Kenny Lovelace is his violin player. He did his song Out of My Mind, which is really good on this one. This is an amazing one. He does There Stands the Glass, which was the big tune by Webb Pierce. But great one there. Another great country album is She Even Woke Me Up to Say Goodbye, which is a great tune. Wind Me Up, the Farron Young tune. He does Working Man Blues, the Merle Haggard tune. Waiting for a Train. It might be my favorite version of Waiting for a Train. The Jimmy Rogers classic is on this one as well. Love the piano playing on that. And if anybody's looking to get a good collection of Jerry Lee Lewis, where he does a few of the country tunes, but it's mostly his rock stuff, and that was this album, Milestones, which was put out by Rhino. This was just an amazing collection of his material, and I would recommend that. If you don't want to go into all, if you just want a nice collection of all of Jerry Lee's material, this was a great one to get, Milestone. And another great, this came out in 1980, this country album, Killer Country, where he does one of my all-time favorite version of Over the Rainbow was on here. I'd Do It All Again, which is another great tune. Change Places with Me. He does his 39 and Holding song, which was kind of a minor hit for him. But this is a great country album as well called Killer Country with Jerry Lee. And another one is I'm on Fire. Now this is kind of his music from '63 to '69 when he was still doing the rock, but that kind of music wasn't really popular with the advent of the Beatles and the Stones and the British invasion. And plus, what happened with he married his 13-year-old niece. It kind of derailed his career as far as rock music was going. But this has some great rock tunes like "I'm on Fire," his version of "Karina Karina," "Flip Flop and Fly." But this kind of has some great rock songs like reminiscent of his Sundays, even though they weren't popular at the time. Great collection. And of course, then one of his live albums I really like is The Greatest Live Show on Earth. He does Jenny Jenny, Hound Dog, I Got a Woman. I really like his version of I Got a Woman, No Particular Place to Go. But a lot of the rock standards from the early days. And of course, Jerry Lee was amazing in concert from what I understand. But I think he was kind of like Van Morrison and Bob Dylan, and that you would, depending on his mood, you never know what exactly you were going to get in concert. But when he was on, he was on. Of course, there's the famous show where supposedly, he was going to open for Chuck Berry, and he didn't really like that, so he did his set and did his last song, "I'm on Fire." I mean, Great Balls of Fire, and lit his piano. He had like a Coke bottle or something with gasoline on and poured it on the piano and lit it on fire. And then as he walked off stage, said, "Top that," or whatever. Supposedly, I didn't watch the CMAs because I don't really watch award shows, but I guess they did a tribute to Jerry Lee Lewis and Elle King. I think she was playing the piano and she had the piano on fire or whatever. Not in the same kind of way, I don't think, but I'll have to try to see that performance. I heard about it. But yeah, Jerry Lee Lewis, the greatest live show on earth, which I guess it was at the time. And there are some, you can see some YouTube videos of some of the early shows that he did, and just, kicking the stool off and putting his feet up on the piano and all the crazy stuff he would do. And the last one I'm going to show is maybe regarded as his best country album, although I like Who's Gonna Play This Little Piano. But this is another great one. Another Place, Another Time. This has his huge country hit, What Made Milwaukee Famous Has Made a Loser Out of Me. Just a great tune written by Glenn Sutton. There's another Jerry Chestnut song on here, Play Me a Song I Can Cry To. Well, there's a couple Jerry Chestnut songs on here. On the Back Row. Oh, Another Place, Another Time is a Jerry Chestnut song, too. He does a bunch of Jerry Chestnut. I think he wrote a lot of these for him. Also does the J.D. Loudermilk song, Break My Mind. But great country album, and it's amazing to me that he was not in the Country Music Hall of Fame until they gave it to him right before he passed away, which is, it is what it is, I guess. But hope you enjoyed that. Check out Jerry Lee if you haven't already, especially maybe some of his country stuff if you're into country. If not, his early rock stuff was just amazing. And that's all I got to say, and take care.